probably protect herself.
Yeah. Like I said, this series didn't know what it wanted to do and would literally forget what it was doing half the time.
Yes, it did. It definitely did. I very much liked, well, I don't know, I like in an ironic way the use of the CG Gotham and CG Huntress jumping around on top of buildings whenever they had to like segue
Transition,
to like yeah. It was super overused. It never looked that great.
It looked like Reboot.
But oh shit, it kind of did. It did look like Reboot.
It looked a lot like Reboot.
But I do credit it for using like a color palette and lighting and things that, even though it looks shitty by today's standards, doesn't look like another city. And that's something you and I talked about in our Batman wishlist video, is that Gotham should feel distinct.
Yes.
And I think they attempted that. It just suffers from shitty CG.
Yeah. The other thing that I did like about the fact they do those city shots, because some of them, if I'm correct, the camera would be like,
yes,
like
it was dumb.
Through. But
I guess it was Huntress flying around or something.
I hated it first, and then was like, it's not going anywhere. I did kind of appreciate it because it was a more interesting way than be like, Gotham PD. Here's the school. Like, it wouldn't be like the straight establishing shot of a building. Yeah. You would like move there, and then you'd get the building, and then it would happen. Yeah, with that sound effect.
And then it would cut to like Helena arms out on like a wire getting lowered into the scene because she just jumped off a giant building or whatever. That was fine. I'm okay with that. Like you said, it's I guess more interesting.
That like a lot of the stuff that like initially I was like, oh, this is weird. Like I remember like the series felt very claustrophobic. Like I mentioned, like everything's on a small set. The costumes are, oh look, Harley's wearing black and red, not an actual costume. Stuff like that. Because
that's in my notes very heavily.
In 2002, 2001, that's just what it was. Like, even the movies were like that. Like,
right.
There wasn't that acceptance of superheroes, even though everyone was reading superhero stuff and knew superheroes.
They never just went for it. They always tried to, like, make a fun workaround.
Yeah, they tried to be the smartest guy in the room, and more often than not, they look like they had their foot up their ass. But, like, even, like, the fights and that are different. Like, I feel like in the mid-2000s, TV went through, like, a major change. Like, if you look at, like, stuff that was like, oh, this will be our big tentpole for the season coming out in 2001 compared to 2008.
And this is probably right when shows actually had a CG budget.
Yes.
And so, like, we can have a character, a villain, who turns into a puddle of milk and looks like a McPoyle brother. Like, it's like they could do that, and then they relied on it more heavily than they probably should have.
Because, like, Smallville had CG, because they had to, like, Clark's moving fast, and like
that's like the main thing I remember. The fast moving, the X-ray, the laser vision. I don't remember his villains of the weeks being so CG heavy, but it probably was, right?
Some of them were, but like for the most part, I feel it was like they did a lot of like practical stuff.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like they were smart with their budget, where Birds of Prey was like, screw it, throw all the money into the CG and see what happens.
I assume they blew it all on those CG Gotham things. This kind of weirdly got dropped too. The first like 5 episodes end with Dinah, Helena, and Oracle on their like clock tower rooftop, looking out across Gotham on what is clearly a green screen. Yes. And that just got dumped eventually, and I think it's like they couldn't afford to keep doing it or something.
There was one thing I did like with those clock tower scenes at the end. Because that you are right, like it was every episode ended with the clock tower, and if I remember correctly, episode 1 ends with just Helena on the clock tower. Episode 2 ends with Helena and Oracle on the clock tower.
Okay.
And episode 3, when they finally accepted Dinah, all 3 of them are on the clock tower together.
Okay.
And I was like, that's a fun little bit.
They built to something.
Yeah. But like I said, most part, like they didn't go there again. It was just they would do the clock tower, but you were from the perspective of the city looking in. There was never them looking out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just assumed that was like, this is too expensive.
Yes.
Which now it's like an effect you can do at home. Yeah. But like at the time, I guess it ate up budget. I liked... I don't know. I can't tell anymore what I liked ironically and didn't like genuinely liked. I thought it was really funny. Oracle's command center is like 14 different screens, computer screens. I think she only ever uses like 2 of them.
Yes.
She wheelchairs back and forth between them and then does like very basic... It'll like cut to her computer to have like the cool CSI moment, but it's running like Windows 95 and she's just like, I don't know, dragging files around on the screen.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Willie Cortez.
That was just kind of funny shit. Oh, you mentioned we could move into talking about actual characters. That's probably like a good focused thing that we can talk about.
Because I feel like we'll circle around a bit to the dumb shit, and like some dumb shit will come out as we talk about characters as well.
For sure. So I guess we might as well go through the main 3. We'd start with Huntress.
I liked her.
I think I did too. I think she was written flat, but I think that actress Ashley Scott did a good job with it. Maybe one of the best parts of the show, like this is a credit to the show if not just the character, is the fact that she's very much Batman and Catwoman.
Yes.
they made the character, both of them. She's a flirt and a thief, but she also has this moral code and like stalks people in the night. Doesn't kill, but on like 4 separate occasions is really tempted
in
to.